Hi friends, it's Chrissy. Today I'm going to talk to you about prank, blip, blap, bleep, bloop. That's what I'm going to talk about. Hi friends, it's Chrissy. Welcome to Artist Confessional. Today I want to talk to you about some paintings I made not too long ago. In our very first episode of Artist Confessional, I was talking about how I was dreaming of making a series of paintings that were based on like my own ideas, and they weren't commissions and they weren't murals. That was in 2020. And last summer, I finally got to actually bring that dream to life. Honestly, I think a little bit of the reason why it took so long to work on a series of paintings that were of my own interest and my own materials and passions is a little bit because I think I weirdly need permission from someone to actually work on something.
What are the secrets of studio practice? I wanna know all your good and bad habits. How do you make art like a pro? There's so many ways to do so. Stick around, cause you'll find out on Artist Confessionals.
Artist Confessions.
Artist Confessionals with Sparkbox Studio.
I think a little bit the time gap between like 2020 and 2023 was because I think I need like permission from someone to actually do art, to make art. It's like I need it to be a job in order to actually do it. I find it really challenging to just get myself into the studio, give myself permission to like use materials and take up time and space to work on art that is for myself and not for a client or a project or an exhibition or something like that. And I was given the gift by Alice Miniker, a friend of ours and a gallery owner of Blizzmax, to create new work for an exhibition at the gallery. I think it was a little bit like a generous token that she was like, I want Chrissy to actually be painting. It's something she talks about a lot, and she obviously needs someone to tell her to do that because she won't apparently do it on her own. So thank you, Alice. I really did need that. And it was scary, but I'm so happy with the results. I'm curious if like the other people here have this problem where it feels kind of scary or like not right to work on your own work. I have no problem working in a sketchbook regularly, or I don't do it regularly, but I don't feel like a hindrance or a fear to do that. But working on like a whole body of paintings, for some reason, there's like a weird barrier there for me. And let me know in the comments if that happens to you or if it doesn't, and how do you do that? How do you make that not happen? I want to know. The collection of work that I made for the show was pretty open-ended. It just was meant to be a painting show. Basically what I did was I took a series of work that I actually started thinking about like a long time ago, maybe like 2017. It was like an idea from a long time ago. I was really interested in like Flemish painters and how they dealt with like the use of paint, but then as I started diving into the work a bit more, I got really fascinated with Bruegel's work, or Bruegel? I don't know how you... Here, this person, I will put the picture of the book on the screen. Him. I got really interested in his work because they were like dense, almost like a Where's Waldo of like strangeness. And I loved all of the like mundane people doing like work around a neighborhood, but then there would be like monsters and strange creatures and folks lurking in the shadows. And also I liked all the building structures and the textures on the buildings. So that like interest in Flemish work kind of like sent me on a deep dive into this particular work. And it was a nice challenge to look at his work and think about, okay, what kind of color palettes can I change? What kind of shapes can I use? That was another thing I really liked. I felt like I was getting really repetitive with my shapes. It was like, oh, these are shapes that I feel comfortable with. I like working with them, so I'll just keep working with them. And I don't know, it was just feeling really boring for me, and I wasn't like feeling excited about my work anymore. And so I wanted to challenge myself to like use different shapes, use different compositions, think about, you know, alluding to a landscape without actually making a landscape. And so that was all of the type of information that I was pulling from his work that made me like really look forward to creating like all of these new paintings. All of the paintings that I was working on, I basically I took one painting that I really liked and of Bruegel's work, and I isolated, imagine you're in a landscape and you are doing en plein air, and you have those little viewfinder, cardboard box things that you can carry around, and you're chopping up parts of the landscape to highlight certain compositional ideas for your work. I basically was doing that as if I was in Bruegel's painting as my landscape. And I was taking little sections of it that I thought were interesting and then pulling apart bits of the shapes in that space to create a new image. I liked it a lot. I didn't know that I was gonna like it as much as I liked it because I've never done anything like that before, but it was really fun. And I started doing them all in Procreate because I thought, the honest reason is because I was terrified to actually paint anything onto canvas. Because even though I know I can just paint over it, it's like my brain says, you broke it, it's not good, and now it's stuck there forever, and you're gonna have to light it on fire, and that's the end of that canvas for eternity. I know that isn't true, but it is weirdly the narration in my mind. So because I knew I would basically never start if I had to start on canvas, I started everything in Procreate. So I would bring in the painting that I was working from, I would isolate certain areas, I would play around with different shapes and move them around the canvas, and then play around with colors and drawing and different tools until I found something that I liked, and then I felt confident enough to translate that into a painting. So right now I'm in the studio and I'm working on this larger piece, and it is based on this Procreate sketch. So I'm realizing that I'm kind of out of shape in terms of painting in oils and working on large scale canvas works. It's a little clumsy to get back into it, to be honest, but slowly trying not to lose faith in myself and just want to give up. Just remember that keep building, keep working towards the image that I have here, and slowly but surely I'll get there. If you're like me and you have a tendency to procrastinate because you're afraid to start, I've been taking steps to start with things that require zero creative input as a method to force myself to do something. I also set a lot of timers because I find that a timer will make me feel like, oh, I have to get it done before this alarm goes off. And so basically for this, I did actually start early on with researching and drawing in Procreate, and then I hit a block where I got nervous to move into the actual painting part, and so I started stretching canvases and gessoing canvases and just setting up my studio. Actually, Kyle and I spent a good portion of time building out a space for me to paint because I'm kind of painting in a little corner of a very messy environment. Something that I really love to do is stretch my own canvases. So I bought canvas from a local art supply store. I'll put a link to the store in the comments. And then Kyle had built frames. I don't know how to do that, but Kyle built my frames for me. And then together we just stretched them. And then I just did a nice gesso, did a lot of sanding. I took time to make the canvases that I wanted. I also used pre-stretched canvases and painted over some old work of Kyle's from university. And once I was actually doing it, this is always what happens. I get completely lost in it and I love it so much and it feels so fun and energizing, and I can't understand why I put it off and avoid it and get nervous about it. Literally makes no sense to me at all, because once I'm doing it, I'm so happy. And to be working on paintings that I mean, I love the flowers and the murals. They're so beautiful and fun to do, but they feel different than working on an oil painting and getting to work with images that maybe aren't like pretty and like touristy. They're just like interesting compositions and interesting textures and colors and things that make me really excited about painting. Having that freedom to do that, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be like when I talked about wanting that in 2020. Like that feeling that like, oh, I just want to have that time and space and quiet for myself to work on something and see what I'm actually interested in. It was exactly what I wanted once I started doing it. I decided with this series of work that I wanted to work in oils. I really loved working with oils when I was in school, and in fact, pretty much all of the oils that I have are oils that Kyle and I had from undergrad. That's the beauty of oils, is they last forever. But I started all of the paintings with an underpainting of acrylic paint, just to kind of get things started, mostly for time management, because I don't want to use any dryers because we are as low toxicity as we can be in the studio. So no dryers. I also don't thin or clean with any terps or anything like that. So basically I knew that the drying time was going to be really long with the oil paintings. So I started with acrylics, and I was working with mostly golden and tri-art acrylic paint as my underpaintings. And then I went over with oil. And like I said, I was doing all my like initial sketching with like neo crayons. And then basically the thing that I think really, really did help was setting up a studio and being able to just like leave everything out. When we had the residency, I constantly had to like pack up what I was working on, because I was either working in our office or our bedroom or working in like communal space. And the luxury of being able to have a space that is just like mine, I get to leave everything there, was just like unbelievably lovely. And so Kyle made me these like beautiful cupboards where all my paints are like visible and not stacked on top of each other in a drawer. And then he also built me a like lovely painting desk. So it's basically an old office desk on top of another desk with wheels, so it can like be moved around, and it's at a nice height, and it's covered in glass so that I can use it as a palette. And then, yeah, just like setting up the studio so that I have like areas to hang paintings up while I'm working on other paintings. All these little things just made the painting process like just very pleasant. I felt really like taken care of in my studio, which I don't know if I've literally ever felt that way, because I've always worked in a shared environment or in a really small kind of weird environment. This was the first one. So this one I called the tree, and you can see some of the like different texture that I wanted to play with just like in the top of this kind of shelter form, and then playing with some layering of like similar colors on similar colors, like the yellow on the yellow, and some blending in that. I think it was like the top of someone's hat, that like white space. But yeah, again, just like I wanted it to be a bit more like a strange, broken apart, possible structure with people in it floating in an empty space. But looking at it, I'm like still seeing things that I want to like develop a bit more, play with a bit more. I really like this like green form. I'm pointing at this like green shape. I really like this shape. Like, it doesn't look like it, but there's like so many different colors in this shape and like little paint brush strokes. I really liked working on that a lot. The end result of this obviously felt really lovely. I think that it also, it's actually hard to answer this because it's also when my dad was really not doing very well. And so my brain, when I think about the show and finishing all the paintings and how nice all of that was, it's also kind of clouded in this like sadness. And I think that's why I really want to make sure that I continue to work in it, because I think I was onto something and I'm excited about the work, and it was really lovely to see all the work up, but I didn't get to like celebrate it at all because I was really doing something really different, which was like being with family and preparing for my father's end of life, which obviously took up an enormous amount of space in my everything. And so I want to make sure that with this, like this work that I did, I think I need to see it to a new phase, and also hopefully create some space around it where I can really feel excited about it, instead of like having it go up, not really getting to participate in it in the way that I, expected to. And then now it's back home with me and it's up and I'm still really happy with them. But I think that, yeah, it's kind of a mixed emotional space, the end of that whole cycle of creation. But in general, just looking at them and thinking about them, I'm really happy with them. And I am genuinely very excited to keep working on pieces like this and creating more and developing this this like new phase of my painting style. That is something that I'm like very, very excited to continue doing and moving forward.